it's something you have to think about literally as an investment. Like, I'm investing X amount of dollars in this job I want to do. And I think it also has to do a lot to do with what major you want to do. Like, if you want to go to Harvard to study underwater basket weaving and you're going to incur $120,000 in debt and you're not going to make any fucking money, like, don't do that. Like, that's fucking stupid. Hi, welcome back to the BS in Life podcast, the podcast where we talk about life beyond your degree. This week on the podcast, we're talking about 10 reasons not to go to college.
So this is essentially, so we have 3 episodes or 2 episodes, this one and one more, that are going to be a little counterintuitive to what we usually put out. Because we usually put out like stuff after college, but like talking to some of our friends, I realized that like not everybody really likes college. And not everybody, I don't want to say not everybody should go to college, but like when I talk to some people, like they didn't want to go, they went, they didn't like it. I mean, if remember even Kira's episode, like she liked nothing about college.
Yeah, but on that same note, if she hadn't gone, she'd be homeless right now. So like, I don't like a lot of things that I don't like eating kale, but like I do it because I don't want to have a heart attack. So like, not liking something is not an excuse to not do something, is my response to that.
True.
Well,
No,
I don't think everyone has to go to college. Like, like there are mechanics who make way more money than I'll ever make.
Yeah.
There are electricians who will make way more money than I'll ever make. But I think the argument that like I didn't like it, like a lot of people are like, I didn't like it. I don't have to go. Or like, what is it? Steve Jobs didn't go to college and he was like a billionaire. So like I don't have to go to college. I'm like, it's not.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's true. Let's just see. I've only like glanced over this article. Well, first, let's back up. So I want to start with an easy question. Well, actually, first, do you have a question? Because I remember I asked you before we came on.
Yeah, I was gonna like ask what your experience has been with like Zoom University.
Oh, I actually have thoughts.
Because I just had it for the first time and it sucked.
Yeah, because you're in your undergrad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so before like these last couple of days, honestly, I've been in class. Like last quarter, well, they're hybrid classes, so they're not like completely in person. 3 of my classes were fully in person, and then one of my GA appointments, my graduate assistant appointments, was fully in person, like because we had to go into the cadaver lab and like do stuff. And then some of my GA appointments were online, and so I was mostly like online. I was mostly in person, so I wasn't fully. I mean, I had some online experiences with like helping other students, and I know they probably didn't do too well, but like for the most part, I'm in person. But for these last couple of days, we started online. So the first 2 weeks for school for me are going to be online. And so I have had my first couple classes, and like I can already tell like these first 2 weeks, it's like it's hard to communicate with people. Like my professors, they send emails out. Some people get them, some people don't get them, and it's like they got to set up times to meet. And you would think it's a lot easier, like more convenient, but it's tough because there's a lot less communication, 1, and then 2, the first thing I noticed was that like in class, like you're in class and like you pay attention because the person or the professor can see you, like in class. Like if you sit in the back of the class, it doesn't really matter. You can just hide and do whatever you want. But like you sit in the front of the class, like they're right in front of you, so you have to pay attention. I noticed when I was in like a couple of my classes, like I would sit there and I would look at the camera and like I would kind of like I wouldn't be doing anything, but I would just zone out. Like I would catch myself like not knowing what he was saying. Like, oh man, like what the fuck? Like what just happened? So I can tell, and I can tell with my professors too. Like it's hard for them to like teach in front of a screen because a lot of them are real tactile and like real like moving and doing that kind of stuff. So I can tell it's like I've only had experience of like 2-3 classes, but I can tell like if this was the entire year, I have no idea how it would go. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I had a different experience, and I think it's mainly just because of the class that I'm taking. So I'm taking a language class,
Mhm.
and it's very interactive. So like it's hard to like be caught off guard because if I zone out for 2 seconds, she's gonna be like, Allison, ¿cómo se dice? And I'm gonna be like, yeah. Um, so like I didn't find myself spacing out as much. Um, but like it was little things that like never occurred to me that would be hard. So like I'm taking a language class, and every time she wants to spell something out, she has to type it into the chat. You have to open the chat, see what the chat
Mhm.
says, and then write it down.
Mhm.
Like there's no whiteboard, and like um normally like in a class like they'll have like the presentation, and then they'll have like what they're doing like as they lecture on like a board or like on a projector in
Mhm.
addition to like the slides,
Yeah.
and they can't do that. And like it was just really hard to like if Zoom cut out while she was talking, like I wouldn't know the word she just said, and like it's a language class, so like and like the audio isn't that good, so like did she say gato, did she say cut, did she say cat, like I don't know. So
Yeah.
it was like it was just a lot of little things that I'm like, oh, this is so much harder than it would be if it was in person, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
I could
I was like really trying to like adjust to that. Was not my favorite.
no, yeah, I could like I'm thankful that only these first 2 weeks are online, then I get to go back in to class because like it's rough. And not only me, but like Nay, she starts working in on Monday, but she is a instructional aide for a special education classroom. And like
Oh
she tells me
gosh,
like
that's gonna be
it's
so
like
hard.
it's they've been online the whole year, and she's like her teacher just sometimes just like doesn't know what to do because like they have bad days and they're like they
That's
want to do
so hard.
something, you can't let you know what I mean. And so that she's been having it like she's only on Zoom for I think 3 hours a day or 3.5 hours a day, and she's like exhausted after just because you have to
Yeah.
keep on reminding them to pay attention. You have to keep on like
Turn on your
getting
mic, turn off your mic. Yeah.
exactly. And like her mom
Damn.
too, her mom's an instructional aide too, and she's like her teachers are just like their hands are tied. Like what can they do? You know?
Yeah.
And
I
so
know like specifically for that too, it's something like really hard on the parents.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this whole Zoom school thing. I was very like nonchalant about it when I wasn't taking classes. I was like, it's the same shit. Like I've taken online classes, it's fine. But like classes that aren't meant to be online, it never occurred to me like how much harder they would be.
hmm
So yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's
it's
different.
I'm not very good with it, and hopefully it doesn't last too long. Or at least in mine isn't gonna last too long, but for most people it doesn't last too much longer. Um, okay, and then my question is, how do you like being an undergrad again? Or I don't think
I
you're
love
technically an
school.
undergrad. You're not an undergrad, are you?
No.
Okay, okay.
I'm doing it through the like continuing education
Oh, okay,
division.
okay.
So
So
like
what class are you taking? So tell
I'm
everybody the
taking
news.
Italian. Um,
Ooh, boom, boom, boom.
I'm really excited about it. I speak Spanish, so it's I don't anticipate it to be as difficult as it would be like learning a brand new language.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm a nerd. I really like school. I like learning, so I'm stoked about it. But yeah, I'm taking it because I want to. I don't know. I have family in Italy, and I want to go back and be able to like actually talk to people. Um, like I said, I'm Italian like 9, and a US 6. So I think learning the language would also just like really help my odds, you know? Maybe help get me a visa. We'll see.
Oh, snap. So wait, so you know English, Spanish, you're gonna learn
Spanish,
Italian, and then you want to learn what, like another one after that?
French.
French. Four
I listen to a lot of
languages.
French pop. So like it would be nice to understand what I'm singing instead of having to Google Translate every song that I listen to.
Is that the one that's the quick maths one? Is he French? No, he's British. No, he's
I have
British.
no idea.
Quick. You ever heard that song?
I know what song you're talking about, but like I couldn't tell you anything about the man that sings it.
Oh, I think he's like British or some shit like that.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay, so on to the article for today. Ready to dive right into it?
Sure.
Okay, so the article we are discussing 10 reasons not to go to college. Um, so as we just discussed earlier, I don't know. I've just been on a kick. I've been on a kick ever since my last break. I just had 5 weeks off of school of like, what do I want to do after I'm done with my master's degree? Do I really want to get my PhD? It's another 4+ years of school. That's a long time. I'll be 29 by the time I'm done with school. And it's like, I'm not like against it, but then again, I'm like, do I need to do it? And so that got me into a rabbit hole talking to other people. And I'm like, okay, well, why do people need to go to college at all? Do people need to go to college? And so I brought up this article, 10 reasons not to go to college. We're gonna go over it. Might not go over all of them, but just to see, just spitball, see what we think. Allie's already expressed a little discontent with the topic, so maybe we'll get some good conversation. Okay, let's go
Yeah.
into the first one. The first one, and it's by the National Association of Scholars. I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out. And it's by Ashley Thorne. So the first one is, all of us have known since our earliest memories of elementary school that abilities are real and they vary. So the first one, I guess he's kind of insinuating that like not everybody has the ability to go to college or the ability to succeed in college. Allie, you want to go first on that one?
Um, so I I think that what they're saying is like people have different strengths, right? Like some people excel academically, some people excel creatively, some people excel athletically. So like, Usain Bolt probably never had to go to college, right? Like that's not what he's built to do. Like he runs fast as shit. That's
Mm-hmm.
what his skill set is. But I think
Mm-hmm.
for a majority of people who aren't like particularly gifted in like one like area, like if you're not an exceptional painter, if you're not an exceptional singer, if you don't have like a talent like that, I think it makes way more sense to go to school just because it gives you more options,
Mm-hmm.
um, and helps you kind of develop those abilities that will help you earn a job.
Earn a job.
Whereas like some people have like natural talent.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, I feel like the abilities are real and they vary. I feel like he's kind of insinuating that some people maybe don't have the, what do you want to call it, intellect or cognitive power to succeed at a university. And I mean, I've always said with talking with Omar and different people that a lot of people actually do have what it takes to succeed, and even like the harder majors. It's just what I found, like especially in biosci, is a lot of people, they can do it. It's just a matter of, do they want to put in the work to do it? And that's not saying that they're lazy. That's not saying that they don't want to work hard. It's just like, for example, like I love physics, right? I love conceptual physics. And I love thinking about it and it's super interesting to me. But like, if I were to take like a higher ed physics course, like it would take me a lot more studying and like mental brain power to get through it than someone else who's maybe a little more naturally gifted or a little more like intelligent than me in that specific area. Like I could probably do it, but like, would the cost of the increased studying time be worth it for me? And I honestly, no, it wouldn't. It would take me a lot longer to grasp with these concepts to succeed in something like physics, theoretical physics. That's not saying that like I'm dumb or something, but it's just like, it's my strengths aren't geared to there, and so I don't want to do it. And so I've seen a lot of that in biosci, where it's like a lot of people are smart, they're smart enough to do it, and they did do. Like I knew a couple people who got great grades in biomedical engineering, and they switched to another major because they just said like, look, like I don't want to spend 10 hours a day studying. I don't, and like I can do it, but it's just like I need to spend X more time in these courses than my peers, and it's draining. And I can't blame them, you know.
Mm, I disagree with that. It. I think a lot of this depends on like your privilege or your situation that's going to happen outside of college. So like for example, when my mom moved here, she had no money and she had to put herself through an accounting degree because that made money and she needed a job that could pay bills because she had a kid.
Mhm.
Like she didn't have the luxury of like, well, like accounting's really hard and I don't like it. Um so like I'm going to do something else. Like it's like she needed a job so she did it. And like was
Mhm.
it super hard? Yeah, but like, you know, I don't think that like it's like I don't know how like to explain what I'm saying. But like I don't think ability has as much to do with it as like dedication. Like
Hmm.
I know people who have dyslexia that pulled themselves through calculus majors and like hard math majors. Like it's is it hard? Yes, but like it's really just like how much time you're willing to put into it. Are you going to go to office hours? Like I don't know if it's necessarily ability. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
anyone's like too stupid to like learn and like get a
Mm-hmm.
degree. If that makes sense.
Okay. That seems like a take. I feel like that's a take I would have usually taken. Like we're taking like swapping roles. This is like Twilight Zone. But that goes into the next topic pretty well, or the next point is your high school may not have adequately prepared you for college level academics. And I think I can go first on this one that like I think that well, so this is like there's two things I want to come to mind right now. Is one, I don't think before you go to college, I think it's hard to know that you weren't prepared to go to college. Like you probably have to go first to find out like, oh, like I'm not prepared and this is way above my head because that's exactly what happened to me. Like I wasn't I didn't think I was like super exceptional in high school. I was like, I had fine grades. Um but especially when I got to college, I was like, I was not prepared for my major. I started in all the bottom classes. I had the lowest writing class, I had the lowest bio class, the lowest chemistry class, everything. And if no, if I was gonna say if I would have known I would have been at the bottom, I probably would have gone, but that's probably not true. I still probably would have gone. But I can only imagine but my school wasn't bad. My school was like one of the top schools in Santa Barbara County. But even so, I still wasn't really prepared to be there. And it took me like a lot longer to catch up to my peers, like in the same classes as me, because I was just so behind. I had to learn all the basics again. So this one, like I do relate to it in that I wasn't very prepared going into college. But I don't know if that's necessarily something you can take into consideration before you go, because you're not going to know unless you go into a college classroom, you step into your first biosci classroom,
Yeah, so I think again for this, like for me, this is an example of like why college is hard. This is an example of why you shouldn't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to a super great, like one of the best schools, public schools in San Diego. I had every AP class available to me. I think I took five. I had tutors. I had all sorts of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And like even I like wasn't super prepared. Like I went to a JC and I
Mm-hmm.
excelled, and then I was ready for UCI. But I think if I had gone straight to UCI, I would have failed all of my classes freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
I started in like remedial math. I started in college algebra
Mm-hmm.
because I was mathematically inept. Um, but like it's not a reason not to go to college. Again, it goes back to the like, yeah, it's gonna be fucking hard. Like I had a friend who went to a school in LA Unified and she was on a track system.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we came from very different high school backgrounds, but she still excelled academically and she's going to get, I think she's going to law school.
Oh,
So like
snap.
it's not your high school definitely doesn't have to define whether or not you go to college. Like it's how you react once you get to college and apply yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that should ever be a reason that someone doesn't go, that you weren't
Because
prepared.
okay, I think I think it also depends on where you're going. Because like if I would have gone to like Harvard, I know for a fact I would have dropped out. Like because UCI is a great school and it's like a very challenging school, but like if I would have gone to like MIT or like Harvard or something like that, which there's very low chance I would have even got in. But like if I would have gone to those places, there's not a shadow of doubt in my mind I would have dropped out. So it's like I think you also have to consider like where it is you're trying to go, because it's like if you come from that school that's like I'm this honestly I'm generalizing, obviously, like there are some obviously diamonds in the rough and there's some exceptional students everywhere, but like if you come from a school who like doesn't perform academically and you know want to go to Harvard, it's like that's not saying that you can't go, but it's like you kind of have to be realistic about it. Like I don't know if I would, because there's certain people, I don't want to put them out here, but there's certain people that come to mind where it's like I don't know if that would have been the best choice for them if they had the opportunity to go there.
So I don't think at all that that has to do with how your high school prepared you. I think it's, again, your attitude, your how determined you are, and how willing you are to put in the work. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think that coming from a bad school should deter you from going to Harvard, but if you know that you don't want to study 18 hours a day and spend your entire freshman year in a library, and you're not going to be willing to put in that level of work, then like don't go to Harvard. But
Mhm.
it's not the school not having prepared you. It's, are you prepared to like catch up and do the
So
work to catch up?
so you're saying it's mostly on the person, like whether or not you're prepared, but whether or not your school prepared you, it's mostly determined on whether the person is ready to put in the work to catch up.
Yeah, so it's like, essentially it's like you're starting the 100-meter dash 20 yards behind, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're not, you can't, it's not that you can't finish the race. It's, you're going to have to
Mhm.
work 20% harder to
20% harder.
finish. Are you willing to do that?
Mhm.
Like for me, I don't think that Harvard would have been the thing for me, because I wanted a really healthy balance between like my life and school, and like I wasn't willing to do a ridiculous amount of work every week.
Mhm.
So like that's not the choice for me, but it doesn't have to do with your background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think you're saying like, do you want to work hard? And if you can work hard, you can, go up and do it. And like, I think coming up, I would have been 100% on board, and I still am like 99% on board. It's just like going through UCI, I experienced like there is a cap. Like there is, you can like, don't get me wrong, you can completely excel by working hard. And you can get, blast through your what you thought you could do by working hard. You can accomplish a lot, but like there is a point where it's like even at UCI, I reached a point where I was like, there's no more hours in the day. Like there's no more hours where I can put towards school or track or whatever. Like I am maxed out. And I remember I went to coach and I was like, what do I do? And she, gave me one of our old throwers who was a biosci major and she helped me out. But it's like, I am maxed out. And so if you look at my GPA, like that is me maxed out. Like there is like there's no way I could have jiggled it or worked harder to get a better grade. So that's why I say like if I went to Harvard, like or MIT, like I was maxed out at there at UCI. So it's like
I
I
guess
can't see me going any further.
I guess I see it differently, because like for me, like my GPA was me maxed out, but me maxed out doing 6 hours of track every day, um, and in a sorority, and having the things that I wanted. If I had dropped the sorority, if I had dropped track, I would have had a
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
straight A GPA. So it's not
Yeah.
that you couldn't do it. It's that you chose to do track, and that took a bunch of your energy, and you chose to do. So it's not that you couldn't
No,
have
no,
gotten
no.
better grades.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying, assuming I was doing everything I wanted to. That's why, like, I mentioned track. Like,
That's what I'm
I'm not
saying.
trying to
So like,
blame, like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
track. I'm saying, like, this is what I needed to do. With what I needed to do, I was maxed out. So I'm not saying like
No, I get
if I
that.
would, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You would
Okay,
have had
so
to chosen to not do track.
yeah,
And that's what
exactly.
I'm saying. Is like,
And
it's not your background, it's your priorities.
yeah, but I mean, but even so, the point, like, if I drop track, I get X more hours, and I think I would have been able to bump that cap higher. But even still, I think there's would have been like a cap still there, and that like GPA at UCI is like a something lower at like an MIT. You know what I mean?
I get what you're
That's
saying.
what I'm
Yeah.
kind of saying. So okay, so the next one, I'm gonna put these two together. Actually, no, yeah, I'm gonna put these two together. You'll incur a lot of debt, and then even students who don't incur a lot of debt usually pay too much for too little. Um, yeah, too much for too little.
So here's where I have a ton of. Do you have student loans?
I have student loans, yes.
Okay, cool. Like, estimate, like when do you think you'll pay those off?
When?
Mhm.
So if I get a job, if when I'm done here, I'll probably be. I mean, obviously depends on how much I make, but probably like 4 years, 3 years. You know,
Okay.
if that's it's if I get a good job when I'm done here. If I
Yeah.
go to my PhD, I don't fucking know.
So here's where I have a lot of thoughts.
Mhm.
Um, this is where I think like genuinely not everyone has to go to college. So like I said, there's electricians who make six figures. There's plumbers who make six figures. There's mechanics who make six figures. Like there's ways to make money and not go to school. And I think if you don't have the ability to pay for education, then there's options. There's technical schools, community colleges, etc. I think that's a viable option. And that's where I would say, like, if you can't afford to go to school, then like, yeah, there's other options. But you're limited in those options.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you can afford to get an education, your options are wider. So like I could have gone into a technical job. I really wouldn't have liked it. I probably would have been working physically more like harder in my job if I'd gone to a technical role. And that's not what I wanted. So I made the investment, which was essentially 2 years of living at home, doing a job that I liked. And then I'll be able to do the job I like and make more money doing something I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was worth that investment for me,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So like it really, it's something you have to think about literally as an investment. Like I'm investing X amount of dollars in this job I want to do. And I think it also has to do a lot to do with what major you want to do. Like if you want to go to Harvard to study underwater basket weaving and you're going to incur $120,000 in debt and you're not going to make any fucking money, like don't do that. Like that's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a teacher, don't go to Harvard. Like you're not going to make the money to pay off the loans.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's where I'm like, you have to think about like the investment and what you're going to get out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty much completely on board. Like I think this debt part is pretty big. Like I didn't know because I got a lot of financial aid and I got financial aid from track. And the reason I still have debt is because I stayed every single summer and took summer classes, and that adds up pretty quickly. But I didn't know the amount of debt that some people had while I was in college, and I didn't know the like how high it can go, like how much debt some people actually graduate with, and that blew my mind. Like I was scared for them, and so I just this is one where I think a lot of people are like, look, like college, you just it's not a good idea to just go into like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. I mean, if you're going to be a medical doctor or something, like, I think there's a conversation maybe around that, but like if you're going to go just for undergrad, I've heard like numbers of like $150,000 at some private schools for an undergrad bachelor's degree, and I'm just like, it just blows my mind.
Here's the thing though. So like that's only if you choose to go to a school with
Yeah.
that tuition though. And those schools have benefits. So like if my parents had millions of dollars, like you bet your ass I would have been going to USC and I would have been going to school with Miranda Cosgrove, with all sorts of people, right? And like there's value in those connections.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time that people go to those schools, it's for the connections, it's for the alumni network, it's for those things. Like I know Stanford every year has a Disney tent because it's the director of park operations for Disney World or something went to Stanford, and every year he goes back.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you're paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the means, that makes sense, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are going to be a teacher, San Diego State is that's where you're going. You're going to pay $6,000 a year. You're going to graduate with minimal debt. You can probably work and pay your way through college, and then you're good. It's just like, it just depends on like that. I saw some people who came out of state for UCI, and that made no fucking sense to me. You're paying $50,000 to go here? No. It's a no for me.
I knew some people. I had a roommate one summer, just for like a couple months, who came from Canada to go to Long Beach State, and she told me her yearly tuition. I was like, oh my, why? Like, why would you ever in a million years do this? And it's high. It was ridiculously high, and so yeah, I'm on board. Okay, so the next one.
I also know people. I feel like an option that we don't really talk about is going to school abroad. I feel like there's this like romanticism around like going to the US for schools. that
Uh-huh.
like we're supposed to have like the best universities and stuff, but there's like really excellent schools in the UK, in Switzerland, in Spain,
In
and
Australia.
your
Mm-hmm.
tuition is like nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so low.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I for as far as like the debt thing, it's really just like understanding all your options and like
Mm-hmm.
the sacrifices you have to make to get your degree. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to Harvard, but you still go to SDSU, and that paper it means the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Next one. You'll delay your opportunity to earn income. So you're just not gonna during those 4 years, you're not gonna be making money. I mean, well, I guess that's what it's assuming. Let me see. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's
that's
the
basically what they're
opportunity
saying.
cost of time spent studying instead of working. I
Here's why
mean,
that's bullshit. They've done the
okay.
math, they've graphed it out.
Mm-hmm.
I can pull up the graph, and yeah, they make more money in the short term, but you out earn non-college educated people in the long term
Mm-hmm.
significantly. So by like $30,000 a year or something.
Is well,
So
so here's where I think here's where I have heard issues with that because I heard that too. But it's like I've heard that when they do these studies, they take it from everybody who has not gone to college. But obviously in today's world in the US, like if you don't go to college, a lot of people who don't go to college, this is obviously just generalization. Don't get mad at me, but they don't have that like they don't know what they want to do, or they like maybe dropped out of high school. Like they have those stigmas associated, and there's a lot of people who do that. So obviously your earning power isn't going to be as low if and they also group people who didn't complete high school. Not all of them, but some of them I've seen. So it's like, but I've seen also ones where it's they take the sample from people who like don't go to college, but they start working. And whatever job it is, they get a job and they start working, and it's still higher. Bachelor's degree is still higher depending on your major, but it's like it's not nothing. It's not like you're gonna be like, in shantytown. You know what I mean?
yeah, but like also I think if we're talking about it realistically, like there's people who graduate with degrees and still end up unemployed. And I think the alternative is like you don't have a degree, you end up unemployed, and your options are significantly different.
Mm-hmm.
So like I I still think like the earning potential is significantly higher. Like I said, you have more options with a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I the graph I looked at was significantly higher.
Yeah. I think wait, hold on. Let me before I say this, let me say if it's one of these points. Uh No, this is not one of the points, but this is one point I'm going to throw in there where I think this is going to be like the deciding. This is obviously what I always say, and I think I don't remember if Allie always says this, but like it also just depends on where you're going, one, and two, what you're studying. So like no matter what all these points are, like if you're going to go to, I don't know, Harvard, you're going to Harvard Medical School to be a doctor. Like I don't know if any of these or many of these points would even apply. I think there's also like this. It's a when you say college, you're grouping in the Harvard Medical School major with someone who goes to college and underwater basket weaving, and doesn't know with no with nothing coming after that. So would you agree like that's one thing that like is always going to be one of the biggest factors or no?
Yeah, obviously your major is going to just define your income range. Like psychologists have an income range, accountants have an income range. Like that's going to decide like how much you're going to make.
Mm-hmm.
But like most of the income ranges are still, I guess, more on the comfortable side. But again, if you go to college to major in underwater basket weaving, that's your passion, and you know you're going to be living in squalor for the rest of your life, but you still that's like what you want to do. Like go off, go ahead. We still need underwater basket weavers, so like do it. But like you need to understand that like that's what you're signing up for, which is I think where you had like an issue. Like you did
Yeah.
the thing that you were passionate about, and then you were like, I don't want to be poor for the rest of my life. I'm switching my career
Mm-hmm.
path.
Exactly.
So I
So
think people, it would be better if people understood that before they went in.
yeah, and there's this like so on that point, like there's this idea that everything STEM is like the end all be all. Like you have to do something STEM. And I do think STEM is important, but not all STEM majors are created equal. And like that's where I come in. Like, no disrespect. I had the best professors, the best school, the best experience, but like just the options for a exercise science major who does not want to be a personal trainer and who does not want to go into the medical field or be a doctor is like nil. It's nothing. Um, and I realized that way too late. And it's like, yeah, have you seen those videos on YouTube of like the worst college degrees, the worst this or the less? Like I remember I watched one and it was like the most oversaturated college degrees, and I was like, my heart started beating. I was like, oh Lord. And I watched it. Guess which one was number 2 on the list? So like the second most oversaturated.
Kinesiology.
Yes, kinesiology slash biosci. And I was like, my heart was like torn in half. I was like, I knew it. I didn't know. I didn't want it to be true, but it's true. And like, I hate to say it. I mean, obviously, if you have like, if you're gonna want to be a professor in this field or something like that, or just do research or whatever, like, there's obviously avenues for you. But if you think you're gonna graduate with an exercise science degree and just have your, your pick of the litter, it's just, at least in my experience, it's just not. It did not pan out like that, and I think for most people, it's not going to pan out like that.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing is I got really lucky. I had parents who would like explain to me like, we'll support you if you go to school to do ballerina school. Like if you want to be a ballerina in college, like we'll support you. But like you're gonna make no money and you'll have no options.
Mhm,
And so I ended up choosing a major like I knew I didn't want to work in, um, knowing that I would have the option to go into econ, finance, accounting, business admin, and like other business related fields and make a decent amount of money.
mhm,
And I have a passion for economics? Well, I mean, I like don't hate it, but like it wasn't my favorite. Like I would have preferred to study like I wanted to study like neuroscience. I wanted to study like something more interesting, but like that like I would have needed a master's degree and like a doctorate degree, and
mhm.
that's not the path that I was going to take. So I
Yeah,
went for the thing with the most options, and it worked out.
yeah. So I'm gonna skip a couple because there's two that I want to get to. The last two. So the last two. The first one: college culture can produce toxic habits in young adults, i.e., binge drinking, hooking up, etc. And this is one where I'm just like, this is I don't think that is college's problem if the students want to go and do whatever they want. Like college, like I don't think that that's one. That's one where I'm like, it's not like self-evident that every college student goes and does these things. Like,
It's not a college culture, it's a 20-year-old culture. Like if
yeah,
you go into the barracks on a naval base, it's the same shit. And actually
yeah,
it's probably worse.
yeah.
So like if you go to a junior college, like it's not a university, it's the same shit. If you go to a small town in Idaho where they all graduated and they're working in their town, same shit. So
Mhm.
like it's not a college culture. It's a 20-year-olds are dumb
Yeah.
culture.
Although I did see when I was there, I did see some like kids and students who like were so not, they were so what's the word, like hovered over by their parents, that when they got to college they just went like off the rails, like absolutely lost their minds. And obviously, again, I don't think that's a college issue, but still, like, if you're thinking about going to college, like, just know, like, just because everybody stays up till 5 drinking doesn't mean you have to do it too. Like, like, you could
But
say
it's
no and don't do it.
even that though is like not on the student but on the parent. So like
Yeah.
I've had the same experience. I had a really good friend whose parents were extremely controlling of her whole life.
Hmm.
And when she got to college, she like totally lost it, dropped out, and ended up back at home at a junior college, partying, doing whatever. Like it was a really like a big shift for her, and she figured it out. She graduated and stuff, but like that's that's on her upbringing and like her lack of experience and like those things. Like she was experiencing having everything for the first time. So like I think that's more on the parents than like on the student or on the college culture, you know.
Yeah.
I know plenty of kids that went and didn't party.
Oh, stop.
So
Okay.
like, you know,
Yeah. No, yeah. It's definitely not. I definitely don't think it's a college issue. It's like a student personal issue. But to wrap this up, to put a bow on it, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this last one. When higher education is for everyone, it loses its higher qualities. Like,
we're
I
already starting to see
what
that.
So you do agree with this point? You do
We're
agree with this point
already
or no?
starting to see that.
Okay.
How many jobs do you see that like require a master's degree or require 5 years of experience? Like the job pool is getting bigger because there's so many people graduating, but you're competing against Rebecca with the 4.0, the NCAA championship, and the Nobel Prize.
Mhm.
It's a lot harder. You're competing against more people. They can ask for more things and job requirements. Like, you're already seeing that. But I don't think that that's a reason to not go to college.
Well, I mean, well, why? Explain why. Because you just explained why that's so bad, but why should, so if you, so you just told someone that, why should they still go? Just because like it's still
Because
like
I'm
you need
making
it,
more
or
money than I would have if I hadn't gone to college. I'm happier than I would have been if I hadn't gone to college. And in
Mhm.
this, saying this, you're basically saying some people need to not go so that other people can do better. No, fuck that.
Well, no, I
That's
don't
not a
think it's
reason for
saying
you
that.
not to go.
I don't think it's saying
Yeah,
that some
it
people
is
have to
saying that.
go.
It
So,
says, do we want higher education to be what K through 12 is? That's saying, do we want everyone to be able to do this? Or do we want some people to do better and some people to do other things? That's what this is saying.
no, I think that it's saying that the opportunities that are from college, like for example, like my theoretical physicist example, like there's some avenues of like brain power that like I'm not good for and that everybody's not cut out for, but it's like everybody wants to go and everyone wants to get in, but it's like if you want to go to college, like if you want to go to college, right? And you want to go for I don't know, something like you said, like dance, and everyone wants to go, and it's like you graduate and you have nothing. It's like you can still save a bachelor's degree, but why did I go just to get all this debt and not be able to have any job opportunities? Like I think there's still a good amount of job opportunities without a college degree. And it might not be like at this, like when I hear a lot of people say like go to Harvard because of the connections, it's like I'm not saying that's obviously not going to help you, but like I think people all want to like, they think that success or like the end goal is like work at, what is it, one of the big three, four, those consulting
Big four.
companies, big four. And if you don't want to work at one of those big four, like you fucked up. But it's like there's a lot of other jobs out there that aren't one of those big, that aren't a consulting job or aren't like one of these highly coveted roles at like one of these super technical fields, like you said earlier, like mechanics, electricians, like they make a lot of money. And it's like, what is wrong with being a mechanic or an electrician?
I guess my thing is the way I took this is they're saying when higher education is for everyone, it loses its higher qualities. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that there's no rewarding careers as other stuff. There's opportunities for people who don't go to college. I think one of the I'm not going to tell a story, but um, I've seen people reach C-suite positions, so the CMO, CFOs, all those things, without college degrees. There's avenues for people without college degrees.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is this argument that if everyone goes, then it's not worth it, and like that for that reason people shouldn't go. That's what I have an issue with. Like saying that like some people shouldn't go so that it retains its value
Oh,
is
you're saying like,
exclusionistic.
I see what you're saying.
Like this specific argument. I'm not saying that like people should like yeah, like I said earlier, like if you want to do a major that won't pay a lot of money, then like you shouldn't go to college. You should do
Yeah.
something that's going to be able to provide you with the life you want or meet your definition of success,
Mhm.
which is like different for everyone. But this specific argument that like if everyone goes it loses its thing is not a reason for someone to not go to college. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying like
If that
just
makes sense.
not just not going because everybody's going is not a reason not to go to college.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get down with that. Okay, that was all of them. I mean, so I think like, but to all these points, I think that some were okay, some were not okay. But I think the biggest thing is like before you go, the biggest thing to ask yourself is why are you going and what do you want to
Yeah.
do with it? And like, what is your goal with this degree? Do you agree?
I think something you touched on, and I think would be also super important, is what is your definition of success? Like, I knew early on, I knew exactly how much I wanted to make. I knew the stuff I wanted to do, the stuff I liked. And I knew the work-life balance that I wanted when I was an adult because I saw it in my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I really defined my definition of success early and then picked a major to match that could give me what I wanted. And that's why I went.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you go in not understanding what you want from your degree, not understanding what it's going to provide you as an adult, what it's going to give you as a career, then that's where you make the mistake, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you go in to bio because you've heard that bio is really impressive and you don't want to work in biology and you graduate with a degree, then you're fucked. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what you want out of college and what you want success to look like is what's important, I guess, if that makes sense. And also, do you have the means to go? My
Mm-hmm.
dad showed up to his house one day when he was 19 and all of his shit was in a plastic bag outside, and they said, and so he walked to the recruiter's office. So, like, it depends on what your opportunities are. He went into the military, it worked out great for him, and that was his path. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
it just depends on what your opportunity is. Can you go? Do you have the money? Do you have the time? Like, can you afford it? Those things.
So how do you? So you said that like you saw the work-life balance, what you want to do. You kind of planned it out before you went because you saw your parents. But like like before I went, right, I was like in my mind, I mean I saw a lot of successful people. Like I saw people with great houses in Santa Barbara County, but it's like when I looked at my parents, it's like my mom, like I always say I don't want to say we were poor, not because I don't want to say I was poor, but like I never went to sleep. I never went to sleep hungry. Like I never ever went to bed without a meal in my stomach. So like I feel like that I was okay in that sense. But it's like she didn't have one of those like C-suite jobs. She didn't have like those connections. She just like went, worked any job she could, put food on the table. And it's like I learned like I think the groundwork of like you need to work hard and like put your nose to the ground and like do what you need to do. But like in my mind, everybody tells you when you're in that position, like, oh, go to college. Like, go to college, and then I think your opportunities will expand. It's like I don't think that's wrong. But like when you don't have that person to look to for like, oh, that's the work-life balance, or that's how I plan this out. How do you figure out what how do you find that out if you don't have the parents to show you that?
So, like, that's why I every time I say, like, I learned from my parents, I say I was really lucky I learned from my parents. Like, I
Mhm.
know that most people don't have that. They don't have that, like, thing they can look at that says, like, that person comes from a similar situation as me. I know them, and that's something I can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, I know it makes it significantly harder, and I think that's something I wish was different about the way we talk about college and the way college is portrayed in high schools or in, like, the media in general. Like,
Hmm.
we need to start talking about it more in, like, what can you do, what do you want to do, and what do you want your life to look like, and what can you afford, and less of like, you have to go, you have to major in STEM, and you have to do this to be successful. Like,
Hmm.
I think the way we look at it is broken, and the way that, like, counselors talk about it in high schools is broken. So,
Hmm.
like, I think the pair, like, the way people view it needs to change.
Okay.
But, like, I think, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get
But
you.
I still think it's a good idea for a lot of people to go to college. Is it for everyone? No. Like, the military is a great option. They pay for college. Like, you can get a free education while you're in the military.
Hmm.
So, like, there's other options, there's other careers. There's ways to work your way into the professional, like, business sector without a degree, but it's much harder and the path isn't as straight as it would be if you went through college.
Yeah.
But it's again, what do you want to do? All those things.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know how you get that if you don't have, like, the parents, like, finding a mentor, maybe reaching out to people on LinkedIn
I,
who, like, are things you want to be interested in. I don't
mhm.
know.
I know. I have an idea. You want to hear it? Listening to this podcast. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Self
Let's put
plug.
a bow on it. Thanks for tuning in to the VS and Life podcast. Shout out Patrick Sohaki for our dope intro music. We just went over the article 10 Reasons Not to Go to College from the National Association of Scholars. We'll link it down in the description for you to take it out. Let us know in the comments below if you agree, what you disagree with, what points you thought were good, what points you thought were bad. We want to hear your thoughts. At least if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on podcasts, if you leave us a 5-star review, shout you out on the podcast if you see it and read it and we like it. So yeah, see you next week.